We just wanted to spend a moment thinking about how we react to change. To start with, we wanted to consider how each colour energy may react when they go through force change. So I'm not going to talk through each of these, but you can see for fiery red, they may become impatient. They might take slightly longer to embrace change. There may be some intolerance there. Maybe they may not be considering others' feelings, and they might have unrealistic expectations. So that's if they're going through some forced change. For sunshine yellow, it's quite different. They might want to be creating lots of ideas, and that can mean that there's confusion, or maybe they might be quite vague about that. There might be some disorganisation that happens, and again they might overcommit and then not deliver to those things. For our earth green colleagues, they will really be wanting to maintain harmony, so they might be adverse to this forced change and really be thinking about the people's fears and their welfare and how that could be compromised. So that will create resistance and blockers. Lastly, people who lead with cool blue could initially be overcautious and be seen by others as pessimistic. This can mean that they're sort of coming up with more problems rather than solutions, and being quite resistant. They may also be attached to previous trends or things that were happening. So if we look a little bit deeper, you might see some attitudes coming out here. So those who lead with fiery red, they may be thinking, bring it on to change if it's not something that's been forced on them. For sunshine yellow, it's about that imagination. What could it be? How could it work? Earth green maybe still be thinking, being a bit unsure, wanting to bring others in. Cool blue might still be a bit distant and thinking, right, it's working, why would we want to break it? So what I wanted to do now is bring in the Kubler-Ross change curve, and this was the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in the 1960s, and she was looking at terminally ill patients and their reaction to this change that they were going through and the sort of impending thought of death, and she considered the different emotions that those people were going through. Then she furthered her research and realised that this roller coaster of emotions could also be applied when someone's going through some dramatic life event, and then later realised it could also be applied to change within the work environment. So you can see here with the curve, we have these three different sections. So begin with, we have shock. So this is often quite shortly lived, but can create a temporary slowdown in performance for individuals. So they're wondering what's going on. They then tip out of that and go into a little bit of excitement, which is closely followed by denial or disbelief. And then moving into anger or blaming others, so trying to think of a scapegoat. We then go into what we call the pit of despair right at the bottom, which is sort of extreme resistance and mobilisation. Once we've gone through that, we then begin to experiment and explore with this change, accept it, make decisions, and start to move on and integrate. Now, what you can see here is that we've put a line from that anger and blame across to experiment and explore. And the reason why we've done that is because as managers, we can support individuals through this change process and try and get them to move across the curve and actually not go into that pit. So ideally we want to take them from the point of excitement, totally miss the denial, the anger, the immobilization, and go to acceptance. And depending on their lead colour, there may be different things that we want to be doing to support our team to go through this change and go straight across to accepting and make decisions. So what I would like you to do now is spend a bit of time talking to each other about what you think each colour energy might need to help flatten that curve. What would someone who leads with earth green versus fiery red need to be able to move through that curve? Okay, we hope you enjoy the discussions, and we'll be looking forward to hearing back from the group.